please rise for the pledge of
Microphone's
flag.
on.
Turn on your microphones, please.
Microphone's on.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance play ball. Carol, would you do the roll, please?
Yes. Just give me a minute. Jay,
Here.
Barbara,
Here.
George A.
Here.
I'm here.
Here.
Carol Sick,
Here.
George W.
Present.
Jim,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Shane.
Here.
Got it.
Full attendance.
And let the minutes show that Ryman Neer is also present. Okay, coming up on the 20th of this month at 5 o'clock, the City Council will vote on the new shade tree ordinance. If you can make it for that meeting, it's going to be one of the first things on the agenda. It's not required you be here, but we do, if you can make it, and just show support and answer any questions the City Council may have, it'd be appreciated. So the 20th on, that's a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, 5 o'clock, City Council meeting. Okay. I want to introduce our new secretary, Conchetta Anderson over here.
Connie.
And what's our phone number? Our phone number?
609-884-9530.
99, is it 99? 99.
9531?
Well, that's my direct line. Yes, that's the number you can use.
That's what you should call, 9531. Okay, the only other thing we've got coming up here in the near future is Arbor Day Foundation, or Arbor Day celebration. You're going to check, Conchetta, if you would check with the school, the elementary school, and find out if they're going to do anything. If they would like a tree, we need a little bit of advance notice so we can maybe come up with a tree for them. George?
Okay.
Okay. Have you been able to get a hold of Matt Notch?
No, I haven't, and I just called
Is he
and texted
ducking
him
us or
again.
what?
Is he what?
Is he ducking us or what?
I don't think so, but he said he would call me back. I haven't heard back from him. But
Okay.
I did
Because
get in
we've got
touch.
some trees, I'd like to get in, those trees he has in storage, I'd like to get
Yeah.
them in the ground.
Yeah, I sent him all
sooner
those
than
planting,
later.
I did send him all the planting locations for those trees.
Okay.
So I'm sure as soon as he can get them in, you
And I would
know.
like
And I'd
to
like to
plant-
get some more in March. I think we should do an early spring planting, because if we wait until the end of April or May, by June, we're in a drought most years.
The
and then it's-
inventory, there's no inventory.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did get in
I'd
touch
like
with,
to replace those couple of trees that blew over across from the southern
Yeah,
mansion
yeah.
on Washington Street.
they were hawthorn trees.
I think they're on your list, George.
Yeah, yeah,
And what was Maryland Avenue also?
yeah.
And we've got that one memorial tree on Gurney Street.
Right, yeah,
It's been dead for more than 6 or 7 months now. I'd
yeah.
like to get that
Yeah, that was a hackberry.
taken care of.
It should have made it in that location, but
The what?
it should have made it in that location with that being the species, but unfortunately,
It's hard to say.
yeah, it's always a,
It flourished, it sort of flourished for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then it just gave up,
yeah,
so, all right.
okay.
All right, Patterson Avenue. Are you sure that those trees on the Mount Vernon side are Bradford pears?
Yes, I just checked them out. I just checked them again the other day, and,
Can you check and make sure? I'm not going to write a letter to the people.
yeah,
Because
Well, you can tell-
there's adequate room beside that ornamental fence, between the fence and the curbing on Patterson Avenue, to put in 2 larger trees.
I'm not so concerned about where the trees are located.
We
That's,
didn't specify
Right.
where the trees, if those.
The
are-
only thing is we
if
did-
those are Tupelo or sweet gum trees, that's fine where he has. them.
Right.
But I don't want to be writing a letter
yeah.
to them, if they are
I mean,
not
I'm-
Bradford pear. I write a letter saying Bradford pear, I would suggest you either give those trees to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and then plant some more substantial trees on Mount Vernon
Well,
Avenue.
that's the thing I wanted to bring up, because if you recall, they agreed upon, we gave them permission to remove the existing maple trees that were there, because they had been topped and
There were,
pruned
yeah,
improperly.
two multi-trunk maple trees that were.
And they were very
churned
close,
up
but, yeah.
And really compromised by the contractors.
But the agreement was that they would replace them with either Tupelo, and I suggested Sweet Bay Magnolia as another alternative, because they would both, do okay in that location. The pear would probably do okay. The problem with the pear is they've now become an invasive species throughout New Jersey and other states. They were touted as being, absolutely the opposite of that. And now what's happened is the cultivars, I guess, have cross-pollinated or whatever, but you're seeing groves of them along the things, and we don't use them anymore, and
We
that's
don't
why we
plant-
suggested,
no, we don't plant those anymore.
which is why we
They're
suggested
nice
those other.
trees for 6 or 7 years, and then they become a bit of a hazard.
Yeah, so,
So was the issue that they were going to replace the two maple trees with Bradford pears?
no, they were going to
They were
replace
gonna
them with
replace
Tupelo.
the trees with either two Tupelo trees or sweet gum trees.
So where did the Bradford pears come in? To
They
the
But they planted
on
them
the
instead.
Side yard
Oh, they
on
already
Mount Vernon
planted- oh,
Avenue.
they already
Which is
planted.
fine, because that's a blank side of the house, it's not the front. It just provides some screening from Mount Vernon Avenue, but it's not the type of tree that we.
That was agreed upon, so I don't know,
What we wanted to replace, so.
yeah.
All right, well, confirm that if they're Bradford pear, confirm, give me the name
Yeah.
and the address, or I can get it from Karen or the tax office.
Okay.
And then we can ask them to put in the trees they've agreed to
Right,
when we gave permit to take the trees down.
Yeah.
The other trees down. All right, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything else? We have some visitors here today. Sir, you want to come up and introduce yourself?
Press that little button on the microphone.
Yeah, press the button to green. There you go.
Hi, Jim, thanks again.
Yeah, no problem.
My name's Jack Cowley. I live at 142 Roseman's Lane. Recent full-time resident here and enjoying every moment of Cape May. I'm representing the Spicers Creek Homeowners Association. I submitted an application, a cover letter, and a diagram to the city for consideration. And the request of the HOA is to replace, not remove, but replace trees. We don't really think that the application for the red maple is appropriate in that location, given that they tend to grow, correct me if I'm wrong, those who know better than I do, that they tend to grow outward. And then we've already seen some sidewalk lift. So also in addition, what really drove this was an event that occurred, a homeowner removed a tree. And we, as an HOA association, excuse me, I should say I'm the vice president, not the president of the HOA, took it upon ourselves to reach out to the city, make sure we understood the ordinance and the code, reached out to the homeowner, advised them that this is not something that's acceptable to the city or the HOA. And as a result of that investigation, we started to look around the property and look at the trees that were planted by the original developer and approved by the city, these red maples. And as you might have spoken earlier, through the construction phase of Spicers Creek, those trees got topped, beat up. I don't know what your feeling of those. They're pretty
Some better
pretty
than
rough.
others, yeah.
Some better than others.
I think
So-
the high wind area, they took quite.
Yeah. So we took a look at the list of approved trees, and this is an amateur suggestion from us to replace those red maples with the American hornbeam, which is not only street-friendly but apparently utility-friendly, meaning they don't grow excessively large. And it's my understanding the root system doesn't grow out as much as it does down. But again, this is an amateur speaking. So the request from the HOA is to have the board here consider waiving the fee of $75 per tree, because I believe there's at a minimum 18 and possibly 20 trees
There's
that we
20.
would like to replace.
Well, there's 28.
There's other, but the trees in question are the
Yeah.
ones being,
Well,
I didn't
counting
count-
the trees that were just on the curb line,
just on the curb line.
they were 28. And then there was a 29th tree that was over near the pool area in the
Are you
back.
sure about that?
Yeah.
I have to double check myself. But the matter still remains that we're interested
Oh,
in,
wait, let me stand.
I thought it was 18 existing and 20,
I'm sorry, 18, right, I'm saying 28.
and
18,
22 apparently were removed.
Okay.
So we want to replace the two that were
And you
removed.
had that one, same planting, same species of tree that's near the pool area?
Yeah, that's not, that's
would
not,
stay.
that would stay,
I would say.
yeah. Or maybe we'd consider
The
removing.
trees that were removed, were they street trees or lawn trees, or where were they located?
They were located between the curb and the sidewalk.
But this is a private community, George, so it's all
Yeah,
considered
it's,
private property.
yeah, even though that would be a city street tree, this is a private community, okay, the homeowners
Well,
association.
technically, the streets are public, so, I mean, there's public access for anyone, including to the water, according to the HOA deed, but, you know, other people can take a position on that.
Yes,
They are city trees? Okay.
They are city trees.
this,
Okay, well, that would seem to be the voice that we would need to hear from for the determining factor on that, if they're deemed to be.
so you're asking basically to waive the $75 a tree?
Well, never mind that, now we're looking at a different scenario of no longer being trees on private property. These are now city trees. So do we need further assessment on the trees? Meneer would be the only contractor now. I don't know if you're aware of that, but sitting right here, Ron Meneer, he'd be
Who
a contractor.
maintains the snow, I mean, we get a heavy snowfall, right? Who maintains the streets in that?
It's my understanding the city does.
In cities, so basically these should be city trees.
Well, we had this discussion just between the two of us, and we, were saying with the scenario that it was private property, but now we're learning different. So how much does that change the
From my
scenario?
understanding, Public Works, City KMA just recently took that whole development over, streets, we maintain it now. We just recently took that over.
So how does that change anything here with our decision?
I don't think
and-
it does.
It doesn't? No.
It's-
Other than the fact that Meneer would be the only one who could now address those trees.
Well, my issue is this, we're talking about 20 trees, and out of, 8 of us that don't know this application very well, I think that it's something that should be in front of all of us to see, something like this, some kind of diagram.
Yeah, so, I
That way,
mean,
everybody's informed, that way we get an informed vote from the entire.
totally understand, totally understand.
I'd like to see George take a look at it,
Oh, yeah, I'll take a look at it, sure.
and the other commissioners.
Yep.
This is the first I've heard of it, but
Are the trees marked? Do we know which trees are involved?
I indirectly, not explicitly noted the trees in question, but in the map that I submitted, I outlined, and in my description, I outlined the location of the trees in my cover letter with the application.
And pretty much you're addressing all the curb trees.
The curb trees,
All the
correct,
curb trees.
because there are trees that are on private property that are similar trees that we're not addressing as the HOA.
Okay, and one more thing I should add is that these trees, though healthy, are not well-established trees. They're on average probably 12 to maybe 15 feet tall with roughly a 6-inch diameter trunk.
These are the trees on private property, or smaller.
These are the trees that they're looking to replace.
The street trees.
The
Oh,
street
So-
trees. The street trees.
Did the-
About-
did the
on average,
HOA
About
put-
12 to 15 feet and 6-inch diameter trunk. That's about average size.
when were those trees put in? Do you have any idea? How long did
Don't know. The original developer is Scarborough Properties.
Okay.
And I think it was done in probably around the time of the formation of the development.
Okay.
Yeah, that was-
I don't have the answer.
That was years and years and years, that was Farrell's Marina in
Yeah.
there, right?
So the HOA took responsibility for the property about 3 years ago.
Okay.
I'd like to suggest, Jay, that we have the board
Take a look at it
look at the
and,
site,
and
and
make a
then-
decision in the next meeting?
And then address this at the next
Okay.
meeting.
Because that is something that we,
If that's okay with you, sir.
Yeah, but to look at it, we've got to go in there and be able to look at the number of trees involved. So we need some sort of a diagram. Could you give us a sort of a diagram that we can reproduce so we can,
Certainly, and in fact, I have it here, it's not explicit, but it outlines where
just
the
something, a rough
location-
diagram that we can get
Yeah.
copies of and
Sure.
give them to members so we can go, so we
Sure.
know what we're looking at.
No
And
problem.
also, the root system of the tree. So a tree will send down roots only so deep until it strikes water. Now, the water table is pretty high right there. So they'll only go down till it hits water, then they spread out.
Okay.
Okay? This is why in East Cape May, which was built on meadow muck, you know, we get so many tree sidewalk conflicts because the trees will spread out to the drip area of the tree looking for water. And this is why there's so many knuckles of trees in lawns that get hit by lawnmowers and tripped over by grandchildren and stuff like this, and people want to take the trees down. Well, the tree's doing what it has to do
Right.
to get water. And it's the same thing here. It's just, didn't think there was that many trees, and I haven't been back there that often, but I didn't think there was that many trees in that area. So if you get us a copy of that, where the trees are, so the members can take a look at it, and we can,
I'm sorry, I have your original application and your diagram
Okay,
that you
thank you.
sent to me. I'll make sure that the rest of
Okay,
the
thank
group
you.
gets it.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
all right.
Great,
Thank you.
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
sir.
then we have to decide, though, between this and that, whether to charge $75 for a tree. Since they came in now to do this, and we're changing the ordinance on the 20th, I think we should be able to make the decision based on the old ordinance.
Grandfathered in, basically.
Right.
Pardon?
He'd be grandfathered in under the ordinance the way it reads now.
Right, okay.
Yes, just to conclude our position at the HOA, is we certainly want to, number one, maintain a proper relationship with the city as far as code is concerned. We love our development there, there's a lot of beautiful landscaping there.
It's white hot, though, without trees in there.
Exactly, and we want to get those nice established trees going and kind of replace some of the beat-up ones and replace the ones that were removed. But we just feel it's a little onerous that we're replacing the tree, not removing a tree, and having to pay $75 a tree. So I'll leave you with that.
All right, thank you, all right.
That's good.
Okay, we have other guests here today?
Also, it takes another 30 days for that ordinance to become in effect, so I don't think it'll affect them anyway.
Agreed. Yeah.
What?
It takes another 30 days.
Anyway,
What?
it won't be effective anyway because it will take 30 days for that ordinance.
Press the button on that. There you go, you're on the air. And you are?
Linda Cunningham.
And Joe Cunningham. We live at
And-
1021 Ohio Avenue in Cape May, permanent
Okay.
residence.
We're here today because we have a Siberian elm planted on the street lawn. I think that's how you refer to it. We purchased the house in 1998. The tree was there. It's very large. It's close to 6 feet in diameter, the trunk is. We're concerned about the condition of the tree, and we're concerned that it's going to fail.
This is a tree on your private property, correct?
No, no.
It's a street
When I
lawn.
say street lawn, that piece
That's
between...
that's called the street lawn, between the sidewalk and the curb. That's
Yes.
city, that's a city tree.
Right, right. So, we've petitioned before to have the tree removed because we feel like it's a hazard. Now, the last thing we did was we had a consulting arborist evaluate the tree for us. And in his report, he said, the elm is alive, but shows pervasive and serious defects and growth anomalies, and is weight biased heavily towards the house. The main trunk is bifurcated by a weak longitudinal seam, which I call a fissure, that extends 7 feet down from an obviously hollow cavity on the east face of the tree. The cavity and seam extend down the trunk on the side facing the sidewalk to a profoundly compromised and misshapen root flare. There's large structural roots are seen, and these are damaged, deformed, and encircling or girdling the other portions of the root system. He also noted that there seemed to be no roots at all on the side of the tree closest to the street. In his professional opinion, the elm is defective and likely to fail by a linear trunk breakage due to the defective trunk and/or uprooting due to the defective root system. When the tree does fail, the elm is extremely likely to contact the pedestrian walkway, causing damage to electrical wires, private property. There is no reasonable mitigation that can adequately address the hazard that this tree presents, and he says since it is such a hazard, it should be removed immediately. I would also like to mention that this was done by Lamanna Consulting Foresters. So in addition, his credentials are, he is a New Jersey licensed tree expert, a board-certified master arborist with the International Society of Arboriculture, a registered consulting arborist with the American Society of Consulting Arborists, a certified forester with the Society of American Foresters, and the New Jersey DEP-approved consultant forester with 30 years of professional practice. So I had to look up what's the difference between an arborist and a consulting arborist. And consulting arborists can diagnose tree problems, appear as expert witnesses in litigation, conduct forensic investigations, and provide tree risk assessments. So that kind of gives you an idea or a picture of his credentials. He also provided us with pictures. If I could pass these around.
Yes.
And I'll just.
And the address on this tree is
It's 1021 Ohio Avenue.
Yeah, we-
1021?
Yes, we looked at that tree.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we did, you and I did.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, this is Carroll's district.
Yeah, and it looked, well, I mean, I'm just a volunteer.
Yeah.
But I mean, to my liking, it looked okay. That's why it was denied.
I can speak a little bit on that tree.
Sounds like a Mickey Riggins.
Well,
Jay.
Ron,
Yeah, Mr. Manier's been out there.
Yeah,
Say something.
we've taken the dead out of that tree probably 3 or 4 times now, and the tree is actually on the decline. And it's growing a lot of sucker growth out the trunk system, which means that
It's showing a lot of suckers out the bottom.
there's interior damage to the tree. If I had a recommendation, I would also recommend removing the tree. It's not a very stable tree.
And we're not against putting in another tree. We'd put in, you know, a tree that was appropriate for that space. I guess that this gentleman had said that that was not the right kind of tree for that space. So we're not against trees. We like trees.
This is an elm, right?
Does it leaf out? Does it have a full crown of leaves?
Looks like an elm.
It has a lot
I think it's an
Does
elm.
it?
Like I
Yeah.
said, we probably.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
An elm?
Yeah, a Siberian
Siberian
elm.
elm.
Right.
Siberian.
Oh, yeah, look at that, girdled.
Yeah.
Well, we have, that's pretty well girdled at the bottom, too, the roots wrapped up. Have you had any sidewalk work done?
Yes.
Well, we did a few years after we purchased the house back in 1998, and I think that lasted 2 years before it cracked.
Again,
This, well, yes, but this is the current sidewalk. The gap between the two edges is now an inch or more, and the one piece of sidewalk is completely lifted above the other piece from the heaving of the roots.
right.
You know, when I look at, there's more,
Well, this is
okay,
it.
there's more decay in the tree. Like in the first page, 3 of 7, you'll see where they did take off a good-sized limb. And just today, I went out and I took a screwdriver and I could see it was decayed and I pushed it in, it went in 24 inches. That's, my screwdriver was only that long. But, you know, my concern, I mean, the tree can be leafing out, but it doesn't, we're giving, well, Mr. Lamanna is giving a picture of what's happening inside the tree.
Well,
I
there's nothing going on inside that tree. Inside the tree, you can have a perfectly hollow tree, and the tree is still viable. Everything happens on a tree within the first inch from the bark. All the water goes up, all the starches and sugars come down. The inside of the tree is completely dead. The only thing it might affect it, if it's a hollow tree, is it loses about 30% of its strength
Well, my concern.
because of the hollowness. This is in my district, or in your district, right? And we looked at the tree, and to us, to Carol and I, it looked like a perfectly, healthy tree. But I'll entertain a motion for further discussion on a possible tree removal. If we take the tree down, when I say we, the city, because it's a city tree, would you be willing to put another tree in?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sure there are many trees
A-
that would
a-
be very suitable.
A dawn redwood, in 200 years, it'll be as big as that tree.
When you say Dawn Redwood, you...
No, I was just kidding. Some suitable tree.
I'm a big
you
fan.
know,
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'm a big fan of the
But not
eastern
but
redwood tree.
not a Bradford pear.
No, I know about Bradford pears.
Ron, you went out, you did see this tree personally?
Yes, I've, like I said, I've worked on it several times and taken a lot of dead out of it, and it is on the decline. I've been probably working on that tree for 30 years.
Says this would be taking money out of your,
The only thing, I don't have a concern with that, but I think we did
what
bring.
kind of tree would be suitable for that area?
I don't know if there's overhead wires. I don't think there is.
What?
No. So probably maybe a
I
linden,
believe they're on the other side.
They're on the other side.
A what?
a little leaf linden would be okay there. They're slow growing anyway.
A little leaf linden tree.
Can't hear you.
A linden.
A linden.
Linden.
Okay, why don't you make a motion?
That's just one possibility.
Okay, in light of what Ron has to say, I'd like to make a motion that we
Northeastern
approve.
redwood?
A red cedar.
Hold it.
I have a motion on the floor to remove the tree based on the evidence that we've heard today. Do I have a second?
I'll second
I'm
it,
a
Jay.
second, and I
And
agree
second
with
by
that.
Jim and
Look,
Barbara.
Shane has something
Jay.
to say.
With the condition it being replaced.
Pardon?
With the condition it being
Conditioned to
replaced.
be replaced with a suitable tree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Problem with that.
It's reason.
And of course, the tree would have, you're cognizant of where your sewer lines and where your water lines come in,
Well, we'll make
and where
sure
your
that-
ess line comes in, right?
Yeah, well,
So
I
you
would
gotta,
have to have that
to
done.
replace it, shouldn't be the same hole
Right.
as the other tree. We'll
Ron, that's
we'll,
going to be this is a street tree.
dig down to buck as many of the roots out as possible, but, replace the tree has to go to the left or right of that.
There's no
So,
problem
okay,
with that.
since it is a street tree, the Cunninghams don't plant it. Doesn't the city plant the?
We provide that.
Or
Yeah,
how does that
Ron-
work?
No, the
will do
Cunninghams
that.
can plant, in this case, the Cunninghams can plant a tree if they want. You can, whatever you want, on the street lawn. And that was the provision is, that becomes city property, okay? We're responsible for maintaining that tree, and we're responsible for if it happens, eventual removal, okay?
Very well.
The only issue is, Jay, we got into this once before, that someone took down a tree and what they put there was a little shrub. I'm not saying you know, in particular. That's sort of the reason why we maintain jurisdiction over what should go there. Otherwise, we end up with, I mean, we can get like a rose bush somebody can put in. I mean, just being a little, you know, playing the devil's advocate. So I think I wouldn't be objective to the city providing another tree there.
Okay. Well, a motion
I mean,
on the floor and.
What do the
second
others
to
think of
remove the
that?
trees,
And I think that's the way-
provision that a suitable replacement tree be planted, okay, at your expense. It'll be city expense to remove the tree.
We have to
Okay.
take a vote on that, Jay.
Pardon?
We have to take a vote on that.
That's what I said.
Oh,
So I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Mr. Cunningham, what was your first name?
Joseph?
Joseph, thank you.
St. Joseph.
St. Joseph.
Yeah, he's my saint.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right. Carol, I'm going to bring up sidewalks.
Yes, this is like a sidebar, I guess, to all of this. I'm just concerned about the repair of the sidewalks in Cape May without removing a billion trees. There are so many sidewalk issues in the city, and we're entering the tourist time of the year. There's tours, there's people walking up and down. I've seen people walk, and now we have people just putting cones out to cover up the problem, and that looks horrible. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think the sidewalks need to be repaired, whether it's through 50/50 or we notify the house owners that, here, you repair this sidewalk in 2 months or 3 months, or you're fined or whatever. It's just gotten out of hand. So I don't know what the answer is, and I'm open for discussion.
Several years ago, the Public Works manager wrote letters to, based on a survey done by Public Works. They wrote a letter to all the homeowners on sidewalks. Now, some were addressed with the 50/50 program. Most were just broken sidewalks during construction and various other types of things.
What's
And-
going to happen is we're going to have a lot of applications here to remove street trees. Because if the tree is humping the sidewalk that much that they're putting cones and, you know, doing that, it's a sign that the tree is impacting the sidewalk significantly. And you're going to have applications here, and, you know, it's going to, you know, the more enforcement we do, it's going to bring more work here, and it's going to lead to replacement of trees like you just saw.
Okay, I understand that, but I think there must be a way to replace these sidewalks without removing the tree, at least to
Oh, so
cover-
we've been doing that all along.
Yeah, it's just, it's going to be a continual problem. I mean, the homeowner's going to say, because the curb replacement and repair of the curb and sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner. The property owner is going to say, in 75% of cases, it's the tree that is causing it. It's not just a broken sidewalk that just happens to be in disrepair. Not saying that those sidewalks aren't out there, but they are. But most of the ones that people are putting cones out are ones that are impacted by trees, street trees. Well, and so, I mean, if Shade Tree Commission is going to say, hey, city, get on an enforcement of those sidewalks, we can, but what's going to happen is 90% of those people are going to come here to ask the street tree to be removed. Well, you're going to have to make an evaluation of that street tree, and, you know, I think you're going to find a lot of them are going to have to be replaced.
We have a program with the 50/50
Right.
program now that enables that sidewalk to be repaired. You know, there's also the ability to bow the sidewalk out a bit to alleviate a problem with the tree roots.
Some
Yeah.
some streets have some, but if you
there
get a
are
property
other
where they
remedies
have,
there.
if you have properties that have fencing and landscaping right out, you know, every street is different, so Obviously, a street like Ohio's got less impacts than some of the streets in town,
Oh, the older,
the older sections.
town,
Yeah.
So can I ask, as of now, there's no random assessment for safety conditions of sidewalks which can be then imposed upon the homeowner for some type of action to correct that tripping hazard or whatever it might be? And then with that being said, if their hand is forced to make the repair, then give the opportunity to the homeowner that if it is a city tree, now they can apply to the 50/50 program. But regardless how they go about it, whether or not they apply for the 50/50 or not, it is their responsibility to correct that tripping hazard on that sidewalk. Now, I'm not going to say, listen, every city is different, but where I had come from, which was New York City, that's how it was performed in a city of that magnitude. So they would do random assessments of your sidewalk. If you had a tripping hazard, you would be flagged for that. You would given so much time to correct it. And
We're not being as active because of the activeness of the Shade Tree Commission, because it goes, a lot of that sidewalk condition goes
But
hand in
not
hand.
all.
I didn't
Not
say,
all.
but the majority
Okay.
of the sidewalk issues.
It is, you force the homeowner to have to address it. They can then apply for the 50/50 program if it is the tree roots that are causing it. But as of now, I understand the only assessment of sidewalks is in the immediate area of a neighborhood where a trip and fall had happened and a lawsuit was brought forward. Is that correct? That's what I.
Or if we have a resident complaint.
Okay. So, can we widen that to, a random once 5 years, once every 10 years of some type of.
I just,
of the sidewalks?
we can look at that, but I just caution what you ask for
Yeah.
here at the Shade Tree Commission. I'm happy to go down that road, but you're going to pick up business, and we're going to be replacing trees.
I think the question would be,
Looking at a lot of
how
50/50.
pervasive is this? I know the cones that stick out,
Yeah.
they stick out a lot. And it's an older community. So the sidewalks are going to have a certain amount of disrepair. I just wonder, how pervasive is this? I mean, how much of a problem is it? Is there a way that we can find that out?
Well, once we start going, I mean, if I start doing the investigation, then we have to take action. I can't just,
I hate to open up that can of worms.
That's what he's saying.
but if that's what the request is, we can open up that. And you're not the only, we've had other
Yeah.
requests like that.
Sidewalk issue, then, again, the homeowner just applies for the
But
50/50, and we replace the sidewalk.
I think we can all realize, and we've all seen the sidewalks and the trees, that the majority of our sidewalk issues are tree-related. Street tree-related.
Yeah.
City tree.
Well, then, what's the remedy? Not have any street trees?
No, the remedy is, well, like
That's-
what, I think the first meeting I attended with you guys a couple of months ago was, I think we need to have a proactive plan and approach that when we have residents like these folks that just, the Montgomerys that just came in here, they came in 6, 7 months, previous to go, and they asked about replacing it. I think we need to be proactive in, hey, we have a resident asking hey, the tree is causing damage, it's in poor health, in decline, let's be proactive and take out that tree and get a new tree growing, and realizing that it's got to be a phased in, because the trees are a resource for the city. And you can't just go down every street today and replace them all, because then we've lost all of our tree growth and
Exactly,
canopy.
yeah.
But we should be looking at it as a proactive approach and phasing in some of these areas. And if somebody comes in, look down the street, hey, maybe this is the time to get a new tree growing in the spot where it's causing a problem, and take advantage of that, and then maybe be more selective as you go out, so that, this year, this section of Ohio, we've replaced that one tree. Then maybe we look at, maybe we, try to scatter that out. Or we could be proactive and look down the street, maybe plant a couple of trees in an area that are down from a tree that is starting to decline, plant some additional
Well, we do.
street trees to be proactive in getting some younger trees started today so that in 5 years, if we have to take a tree down, maybe we already have a tree growing in that area that's going to help offset that.
And we try
then
to
you
do
and then
that
you plant a new
with
tree.
our plant,
But I think,
yeah.
but that's going to be what happens. If we start getting proactive on looking at sidewalk repairs and putting if I send a notice to you to repair your sidewalk, first you're going to say is, hey, the city's tree caused this repair, I shouldn't have to do it. So that's going to be the response to code enforcement. Code enforcement's going to say, well, make an application down the shade tree. And then, and then it's just going to come, no problem working on it. We've got, we can do it. I just want everyone here to be prepared because you're going to have to be taking a look at these trees. And my suggestion is, I think you can hear from my tenor what I'm talking about. I'm going to be proactive in replacing trees in a planned approach. I'm not saying I want to go down the whole street and strip down trees, but I think that we need to start looking at some of our tree stock is older. Some of the trees are in poor health, and we should start being proactive now. God forbid a derecho or a really strong wind comes down. That last windstorm we had back in January when we had those 50-mile-an-hour gusts, I was fearful that Frank was going to be calling up and say, we've got 40 trees some down. And I think we didn't have that many trees come down during that storm, but I was fearful of that storm. That was some heavy winds we had. And, if we had probably had more rain, we might have, lost more trees. But that's what's going to happen is, some of these larger, older trees that are in decline, and every time you take up that sidewalk to repair that tree, that contractor's going to take some root out of that because he's going to want to put some grade back on that sidewalk. You also have the issue, I can't just raise it at a certain slope because then now that I've replaced it, I have to meet ADA slopes. So it's not just replacing the 2 panels that have heaved up. Technically, I have to go back 4 or 5 panels each direction
Right.
to maintain slope.
1 inch per 1 foot.
You know what I mean? So it's not just doing that because if I want to remove the heave, then I'm going to have to really remove root. And what happens if I start cutting root out at that point, then it's got no root on the curb side. If I start cutting major root out at the top on the side, the house side, I've really messed up the integrity of that, which just further goes to if it's heaved up to the point where I'm putting cones out and, I have, 6 inches of rise in a sidewalk panel.
Can I make a suggestion? If you see an issue in your areas of where you're in charge of, if you see a tree that's raising up the sidewalk, take a picture of it, bring it to the commissions, and let's just discuss tree by tree. This tree is causing trouble with the sidewalk. We're not going to get the homeowner support by replacing it. Then we say, okay, we'll bite the bullet. We'll cut down that one tree and not the whole line on the street, and then pursue the sidewalk repairs before we even.
Well, Shane, we just went through a process, and I think it was a pretty good process. Carol and I were just talking about it when we started talking about changing the ordinances. Put together a little group from the commission, sat down and thought, met outside, came up with some ideas, presented the ideas, then went to the city with these ideas. And before we open up and let the dominoes start falling over, let's see, I like your idea about having the commissioners inventory their own districts.
I think that's because if I have code enforcement doing it, then it's a process I have to continue that process.
Absolutely.
But if the commissioners canvass their own district areas and pick your 5 hotspot locations that, you see people have put those out there, look at your own assessment, is it caused by a tree? And maybe I think we start being I think that's part of being I think that's part of the shade tree being proactive and looking at it, that we take that tree down and we put 2 or 3 more trees in that area to start growing some trees back, so that, hey, maybe we have to do some more trees 2 years down from there and be proactive.
The only thing that you have to keep in mind with doing that is if we remove a tree, a larger tree that is causing that problem, you got to bite the bullet and also remove the stump out from that area. Because grinding it, we can only grind so far down the ground, and the root systems go much deeper than that, so you can never plant over that certain spot. And like on Washington Street, there's a few areas where we only had a 5-foot lawn area where we took a big tree out at, and you could never plant anywhere near that area. So you got to bite the bullet and replace the sidewalks in that area, because when you pull the stumps up, you're going to pull the sidewalks up too.
But that's part of why.
No extra charge to.
But that goes why we're replacing the tree, because it's heaved the sidewalk. So we already know we have to take that sidewalk out in that area. So I think it'll go hand in hand.
But can we look at the scenario of saving the tree? I mean, why are we jumping immediately to removing the tree? Just because there's a tripping hazard on the sidewalk, it's possible that a repair to the sidewalk can be done.
I think, Jim, if we take an inventory, as Shane recommended or suggested, we then can go to that phase.
Okay, so then the next step would be.
It's an
now the
automatic
homeowner
treat,
is,
death sentence.
Advise that they need to.
Yeah, but most of the time it's going to be, if it's a city tree, it's a city tree. So the city's going to have to, you're going to have to evaluate, I'm not saying every tree, but
Yeah.
but if you get a tree that's like the one we just had here a while ago, I think if we truly look at some of those trees, I think there's going to be more in decline than that are healthy. Because when you're looking at it, none of our street trees have the area that is required
Right.
under any guidance. Some of our strips are down to a foot and a half.
Yes.
You would need 3-4 feet strip plus some
taking
length,
away
just to have a healthy.
Problems. We go out and now we start this proactive program. We assess a sidewalk, there's a tripping hazard. It is caused by a tree root, but the sidewalk itself can be repaired without doing damage or taking the tree down. Who then pays the cost of that sidewalk repair, being that it came from us?
Well, I think we could always go back to the homeowner, because it's still the homeowner's responsibility for a curb and sidewalk. So then it's a 50/50.
And then they'd be able to apply then, because it is a curb tree.
Yeah, we still
they'd
have
be able to apply
50/50 there.
50/50, and then it would be a
Yes.
shared cost.
The the 50/50 sidewalk program has been in effect over 15 years. It's saved many, many street trees and has resulted in arches arced into the sidewalk, humped up and over the roots, and has saved and preserved many, many of our street trees, and has been fairly popular. In most communities, not all, but in most communities, it's up to the homeowner 100% to maintain his sidewalk, whether it's a city-owned tree causing the problem or not. And the 50/50 program was to provide some property, some relief to the homeowner, and still maintain the tree. It's one of the reasons why we're hoping up this year, going to be 42 years, Tree City, USA. We try to maintain, the Shade Tree Commission is going to come down on the side of the tree every time, okay? And I realize there has to be some compromises made in some cases and stuff. And so I would suggest that we continue on with the 50/50 program, evaluate these things on a case-by-case basis. But the idea is to maintain that city tree. These people that came in before, we're going to take a tree down because the tree is compromised or damaged, there's old age, it's been pruned several times in a few years. The tree that puts in there will all be dead and gone before that tree that they put in there provides any of the shade, any of the beauty.
But think back, the tree, that tree, when it was planted, you were all young folks running around in grade school, probably.
The what? I didn't hear you.
When that tree was planted, you were probably in grade school.
Probably.
So we have to plant some trees now
Well, it's
so
like,
that
it's
my
like,
grandchildren have a
like-
tree that's going to be that same
So this
size.
proactive approach you want to take.
well, it's like
on
Ron Meniere's.
Taking
it's-
down a tree or replacing a tree, at whose suggestion is that going to be? I mean, I don't think that's something that we as volunteers, as, you know.
That's the shade, you're the Shade Tree Commission. You
So
signed
you
up.
want us to actually go out to neighborhoods, our zone, our district, assess a tree with no expertise, because we're not experts by any means.
No, I think the suggestion was that we had sidewalk issues.
Sidewalk.
So to look at, so
Right,
look
but
at,
no, you were saying to have a proactive approach of
Oh, I-
starting to replace some of
Oh,
the.
I think-
So at whose hand would that be?
well, I think
to
we
make
can,
that
I think we can look at having assessments done, getting an updated tree inventory and looking at tree assessments. I
But
mean,
does that
but
fall on
you do
city
tree assessments
park?
every time. You do tree assessments every day. That's part of what your job is. You've been trained.
When
and
called out, but not to
Correct.
go out and do an assessment.
is there any difference?
I would say so, yeah.
There is.
Yeah, I'd say that puts quite a bit of liability on us.
It depends on how we want to manage and preserve this great resource we have in our city.
I-
You don't want
I'm not looking to go out.
cutting trees before we get to see them.
No, I think we should have more of an expert opinion, maybe somebody as Ron Manier, or somebody at least who has, you know, an expertise in the field. Just to go and, you know, I may look at a tree and to me it looks like an unhealthy tree, and Ron may look at it and say, no, I mean, you know, with proper maintenance and pruning, and this can be a very healthy tree.
Yeah, but you're looking at the health of a tree compared to what this whole subject was brought up was to lifting the sidewalks. If the
That was one subject, Ron. No, then it was also brought up about having a proactive approach of looking at trees that may be aging, that may be, you
Right.
know,
And that proactive approach is looking at when people come to you, like the Montgomerys came to you last year to say, hey, let's do that. I think that's the proactive approach I want to take is let's take advantage of the people that are coming to us and saying, hey, really, let's look at that and use that as
Absolutely.
as an opportunity. Let's look at, if you go in your neighborhood and you see, somebody's got 2 cones out on their sidewalk, maybe that's something, you take that as an opportunity to bring that to the commission and say, hey, let's take a look at this tree. Maybe this is a candidate to be proactive on that case. I'm not saying to go out there, I think there's plenty of those opportunities that we don't have to go out there and just start walking up and down your streets and just, let's try to get this one out, let's try to get, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, let's use the opportunities that we have of people coming to us, identifying, residents that have identified their sidewalk, that they know that there's a potential issue out there. Let's take those opportunities to look at, getting in some new
All right.
trees.
All right, thank you, Paul.
It's not an easy thing, and it's not going to happen overnight.
oh, definitely not. Yeah.
But I think we need to start looking at it.
I think there's some merit, at least in trying to get an idea of what potential liability exists out there with the tree stock that we have. I mean, I look at the flag that's up on the stage there, and if we keep losing trees, we're not going to have that flag up there anymore.
Yeah, and I didn't bring this up to cut trees down. And I think the sidewalks need to be repaired, and I agree we ought to have a committee and look at the sidewalks and so forth. But I think there must be a way to do this where you can work around, fix the sidewalk, work around the tree, and not go systematically, like down Washington Street, and say, well, we're going to cut this one down this year and this one down next year. Pretty soon, you're going to have a bunch of little stubby trees going down a street that now is beautiful with trees. And that's why we're Tree City, because we're Cape May and we have trees, and we don't want to cut them down. And if somebody comes here and they say, well, my sidewalk has to be fixed and I want to cut the tree, we're the shade tree. We can deny that. No, you can't cut that down. You just fix your sidewalk, and we're going to go on from there. I mean,
Unless it's an unhealthy tree like the Montgomerys came in and pay for an arborist.
Yeah, but this couple here, we didn't give them permission to take that tree down because it affected the sidewalk.
I
That
agree.
permission was given because that tree is deteriorating.
Their sidewalk wasn't really that
No.
bad.
No.
Honestly.
No, it was more
The
the
sidewalks,
expert
Were you saying
report.
something?
Yeah,
You were
that-
saying something as Jay was talking.
that tree was in decline, not because,
One-
you know,
Let
I agree.
Ron say what he was just saying.
One thing, being the sidewalk is the homeowner's responsibility, it's the homeowner's insurance that covers anything that happens with that, correct?
I think potentially there could be some shared responsibility, because if it's the city's tree that is causing repair, and it goes into an issue of, we send a violation, then we deny cutting the tree, and then they have to do something crazy to try to repair the sidewalk, and because we've denied removing of the tree, if that, then 2 years from now, they put in new sidewalk through the 50/50 program, the roots heave that sidewalk up again, and they don't catch it, and somebody trips in between that period of time, I
That's what-
don't want to say, but
gonna be shared.
I think,
That's
I
why-
think
that's
that's
why
why we
we-
have attorneys, and they'll have to look at what liability there is. But typically, the city has tort liability for those kinds of things, but when we have, a potential issue and we don't address it because it's our city tree,
That's
we'll
why-
have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and evaluate.
That's why we have an approved moving 5-year plan to address hazardous trees, to do a 50/50 sidewalk program. The state gives the city, relieves the city of its responsibility because of trip hazards due to sidewalks. That's why we have that plan in effect. I mean, the insurance companies are still going to sue,
Right.
okay? But that's why we have
It helps limit our liability.
Several years ago, before we got these 5-year plans, cities were dissolving shade tree commissions because of the liability. And in order to prevent that, the city said, you do a 5-year plan to address a lot of these things: sidewalks, older trees, maintenance of the trees, tree hazard assessments. All this stuff is in a 5-year plan. You do that, and you resolve a lot of responsibility because of this.
But like I
And
said,
it's
though,
worked,
to do repairs on sidewalks, it's, this sidewalk repair could damage the tree. You're going to have to put in, as it gets more of a heaving problem, you're going to have to put in, it's not
Still.
just more sidewalk. You may end up replacing the entire frontage of the sidewalk just to get grade to work up and over the tree safely.
Or, as we've seen in several occasions, the homeowner just takes it upon themselves to do it, take the roots out, tree's compromised, the tree's going to die then.
And then
And George, you and I have seen that on numerous occasions.
And that's what I consider a lost opportunity.
Absolutely.
To plant trees, and, that's giving this commission and the city false hope of having that tree last forever. And we just need to evaluate. I just ask you guys to take a look at, as we get those requests, to seize an opportunity to replace it. And I'm not saying to go down Washington Street and start replacing trees, one this year, the next one next year. I'm not saying that, but I think we need to start replacing this resource, because it is a resource, and it's not, it's only renewable if we plant new trees.
Paul, can I ask, and maybe Shane, because Shane knew immediately the 12-1 slope, you said?
That's as far as I know, that's what it is.
So the other method, of course, which we've seen, is avoiding the roots of the trees, but that is solely up to the homeowner. Is there a certain amount of distance they can go within their own property to curve the sidewalk around it instead of humping over it?
Well, you can't, I mean, depends on, each street is different. So, each street has a different right-of-way width. So some streets have some right-of-way width that you can go around it. Some areas of town, they have fences and improvements right up to the sidewalk edge. So there is no ability to go around it.
Let me maybe rephrase it. So it's practical. There's no fence, that they do have the room to do it. But by city code or anything, is there anything that would limit them to how far they can actually bring it?
Well, technically, we would have to they would have to provide the city an easement to have the public cross onto their property. I mean, the public only has a right of, that's what they call it, a right-of-way. It's a public right-of-way, so the public, technically in the state of New Jersey, every property owner owns out to the center line of the street. Everywhere in the state of New Jersey, that's where your actual ownership of the property. However, because there's a right-of-way, whether it's a state, county, local, we have, over time, each property owner has deeded that easement, so it's really an easement the city has for that area. And it's a public, right-of-way.
Right to the homeowner, and then the
Well,
homeowner.
technically, we would have to get an easement if we were trying to go onto their property with the sidewalk. Technically, we would have to get an easement, survey it, and have to get an easement from the property owner. But in most cases, that's going to be difficult to do.
It also would depend how much you are talking about bowing that sidewalk out. I mean, we see, just in my district, we have 2 or 3 people have been very receptive to bowing the sidewalk. I mean, they're.
But arcing the sidewalk, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's, most people, most residents are reasonable. I mean,
Yes.
they don't want to see that tree be destroyed.
Then you have a lady over here on Lafayette Street that refused to bow.
Absolutely.
She had plenty of lawn space to.
That's why I said most, Ron.
That was pretty much my question, that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
All right.
But we can't force them to do it.
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I got
Anybody have anything
something.
else?
I got something.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you want to go first?
Just one thing. I want to confirm that all the commissioners are going to assess the sidewalks in their district as far as,
And take photos.
Thank you.
yeah, as far as sidewalks that are upheaved, and then come back with ones that are.
So we can address it.
Come back with a list.
A list of ones that might be potential candidates for either being replaced or tree
Go
being.
around the tree.
Right, yeah,
Put a 60-day.
yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I personally have a little bit of a problem with that. It's one thing when the homeowner approaches us, and then we do the assessment, because
This
they
is
had
the
come
fire
to us. But for us to be proactive in not any official city capacity, we're not paid employees. I think that to force that upon a homeowner should really be coming from one of the city departments or somebody who's actually hired by the city.
But I think, Jim, we're just going to look at it.
We're just
We
gonna
get the,
But you understand what you're doing. So you're coming here, and you're going to put one of your neighbors in a position where now you reported that sidewalk, and they might not have wanted to address it. But now their hand is going to get forced to now have to address that, which is going to be a money issue also. It's going to cost them. Whether or not they get
Yeah.
50/50 or not, they're still on the hook for
I don't think the intention is
50.
to force someone to do something.
Well, but if we bring it to the board, and then it then
then we
winds
give
up
it
in the
over to
hands
the
of the
city.
city manager, and, then what? Then where does it go from then? And why even bother? Why we,
I'd like to add a comment from all of this. First of all, this is a
Code
very,
enforcement?
very complicated
better.
Better that we do
situation.
it.
But to answer what you're saying, truth be told, we've had people that have come to us to report to us, like branches coming out on the street and different things with like bicycles hitting branches. So there's a lot of individuals who will come and report things. And so when you say you can't go around and look at your own district and your neighborhood just to see what else looks like something, not to report to, to the homeowner, but just to bring it here to the commission to be looked at when you notice something that's very maybe serious. I mean, I have looked at trees that have been literally so old and grown that they are going into the street itself. You couldn't even cut them out. They're in the curb. They're all going into the actual asphalt in the street. So there's things like that that should be brought to the attention to this commission so that we can look at things like that. Because believe me, what we've talked about this afternoon is very complicated and
right.
very, very, many issues involved with all of that. So that's my thought, that when we're in our district,
I wanna
we're
separate-
walking down the street, if we see something, we can bring it to the next meeting or report it or whatever. It's not to affect the homeowner at all.
well,
It's
I'd
just
like to
affect
separate
the
looking
commission.
at the tree itself for removal is one thing, because there's no cost to the homeowner. But in this case of a sidewalk, there is cost to the homeowner.
but Jim, they
So if we're going to bring that up as an issue and then decide where do we go with it from there?
No, I
Okay, so we all
But they
decide as a
have-
board that that sidewalk needs to be repaired. What do we
but
do
I
from there?
think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Karen.
I think they do have a responsibility, though. They're in the city, they have this horrible
I'm
sidewalks.
not disagreeing with that at all.
So I think us addressing it is a good thing. I mean, again, I'm going to refer to Washington Street because I walk up and down there. There is a sidewalk there that definitely needs to be addressed. But, I mean, there's a gap like this. I wouldn't want to walk down that street at night. Somebody's going
Okay,
to get hurt.
oh.
I mean, somebody's going to get hurt. And there's a lot of issues like that.
And by people putting cones up, they're just advertising.
Yeah.
Paul,
Talk about adding
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear you
You're just
clearly,
saying,
because
I
there was
know
so many
there's
other
a
people
problem,
speaking at the same
but I'm
time.
not doing anything about it.
I don't think there's any problem with this commission making an assessment within each
Okay,
commission's particular.
but where does it go from there, George? So now we bring it to the board here and we all decide, yes, this sidewalk needs to be repaired. Does it go then to code enforcement? Who does it go to?
Well, we have to first decide as a
It's
commission.
going to go to code enforcement.
But we first
Oh,
have to
wait,
decide
wait,
as-
wait, wait.
Wait. We have first to decide as a commission the reasons why the sidewalk is in disrepair.
That's true, too.
So once we look at the sidewalk, we're looking at the tree. We're not going, making phone calls and emails. We're looking at the tree. We're deciding amongst ourselves, is this an appropriate tree?
Right.
Is this tree a healthy tree? Is this tree going into the street?
Right.
You know, is this tree causing any utility issues? That's when we start to say, okay,
Right.
maybe we should hire someone to look at the tree before we start, moving the wheels even faster.
Exactly.
You know, I think if we were to bring this up amongst each other, it's going to be a month or two process once we decide what we should be done with the advice of the city manager and our city solicitor.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're going to go off in our districts and start looking at sidewalks in your district, right?
60 days.
Okay.
60 days to complete, maybe.
Pardon?
Maybe have a 60-day window to complete it.
Oh, and I don't think you.
Okay.
Bring it here.
I don't think it's you can be as proactive or active, but it's just, I mean, you guys are in your neighborhood, your district as you see fit. I don't think this is I don't think the city is saying, hey, go canvass your districts and let's find all the sidewalks. I think it's just a way that if you're driving to your district, and you're next thing you put a tree review of somewhere else, and you see an issue, hey, let's maybe bring it back. So I don't think you don't have to be as proactive as, hey, 60 days from now, let's have a report of every bad sidewalk and tree in your district. I don't think that's the intent of what they asked, but I think is, hey, if you see some bad.
Yeah, I don't want to,
Next to a street tree, let's evaluate.
so,
See if that's a problem.
okay, so I don't want my commissioners to be a police department looking at broken sidewalks. So we come up with this list. So where does it go? To you or to code enforcement? And what are they going to do with it?
Well, I think you gotta take a look at it to see, make an evaluation of, what's the condition of that tree that is potentially causing a problem with the sidewalk? And we need to evaluate it.
So let's get to the bottom line on this. So now it gets to the point where we decided as a board that the sidewalk needs to be addressed. It is caused by a curb tree. We're not going to take the tree down, but we are going to address the sidewalk. The homeowner is then told from code enforcement. Do they have to act on that?
Yeah, they should.
Once code enforcement is involved?
It's a legal process.
Enforcement gets an issue, code enforcement will act and have to, the homeowner will have to follow it up.
So that's,
Okay,
so then it
let's
takes
give,
it out of, once we get to that point, it's out of our hands. We voted, we had opinion, but at that point, then it becomes code enforcement, and we're no longer involved. Yep, okay.
Here's another part that, and I brought this up before. We had said that when it comes to a street tree, it should not just be that district commissioner to take a look at it.
Right.
It should be something looked at by all the commissioners. If it's a street tree, homeowners, we can kind of make certain calls on our own. But I think for street trees, in this case, we're going to have to do the same thing. There is one in my district. The sidewalk is not concrete. They have a slate sidewalk. So what do we do in that case? I mean, but can they do,
there are a couple.
can they still do slate?
There are a couple of people that can deal with slate sidewalks.
But the tree's beautiful. It's a beautiful elm tree. There's nothing wrong with that. That tree's only about 14 years old. But what happened was when they did construction, when the street was redone, they cut all the roots. So when they cut all the street tree roots, the tree is now sort of cantilevered a little, but those other roots are overcompensating, I guess, to keep it grounded or whatever. So the sidewalk is an issue, and it's been an issue, but they haven't done anything, and it's slate.
A perfect example of that is the Dormer House, which Barbara
Dormer
Okay.
House.
brought up.
Is that slate there, too?
Slate,
Horrific.
and it's,
Horrific.
yeah.
All
And all
around.
caused by curb trees, it's all, you know.
So do I bring this up now? Do you guys want to take a look at this, or is it?
Okay. In the next 2 months, let's say the April or May meeting, come up with a list of, in your district, of sidewalks that need repairing, whether they're due to a tree or just broken sidewalks, okay? And indicate on your list which is which.
I was
Yeah.
actually going to mention that we're actually discussing today two separate issues.
Right.
One is trees, which the Shade Tree Commission is responsible for, and I hate to say this, but the sidewalks really are part of the city. I felt that for years. I have a property on Perry Street that the trucks come up there, my curb has been knocked over. It's horrific, and I'm responsible for it.
And there's no trees involved.
No trees, no, just all the traffic on Perry Street, right across from Uncle Bill's Restaurant. It's like the great big trucks come to deliver
yeah,
all the
to
restaurants. They
make their
rip my whole
deliveries, yeah.
entire sidewalk up.
Well, there's restaurants on either side of that street.
Right. So that's another issue in itself for the city of Cape May.
Okay, you guys ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. What?
Okay, so this is a plan of the new sidewalk they're putting in on Franklin Street. It's pretty much been approved by the city of Cape May, and I want to be doing my job as liaison to the council and you folks by not bringing it to your attention. So just to kind of describe what's going on here from left to right, we have these two trees in front of the Macedonia Baptist Church. You see that? They plan to take them out. Okay, they're going to be putting in some street lights, some lanterns along both sides of the street. I have some more designs if you want to take a look
This
at
is on the
them.
Franklin Street side. That's a sycamore and a pear.
Do you know what they are?
Yeah, I planted.
I knew I would read this.
There we go with the
And then
planting.
before we start discussions, as we continue moving right, we got the tree in front of the Franklin Street Library School. They want to put a cutout, as you can see, a semicircular cutout in the front of that tree. I think you need to think about, and the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is so that if you have any recommendations for city council, we should formalize it and send it to city council. I mean, my personal opinion is I'd like to see the trees stay there. My personal opinion is that I hope that cutout for seeding is not going to, cause any damage to the roots.
What is the? I was just going to ask.
It's a sitting nook for people to read books.
They can't sit anywhere else. Just there.
It's the main purpose of this is the whole streetscape, trying to tie in this historic area together with the sidewalks. But according to our professionals, that there's not much space in that area to keep the two trees on the left on the sidewalk.
Well, are they not going to have a tree line? Is that?
Well, according to the plans right here I have, and it was brought up, it wasn't even brought up by me at the council meeting. You can see where the tree exists, and then the new design, the tree does not exist.
Right, so they're not going to have a tree line. They're bringing that sidewalk right to the curb.
And they replace it with lanterns.
Here's what I don't understand. I just inquired about those lanterns because my home is on Windsor Avenue in the historic district, and maybe you don't even have the answer to this. I was told there's gas-lit lanterns down at the beginning of my block, and then they stop. My house is in the middle of the block. So I asked why we can't have them continue throughout the block, and they said they're not putting any new lanterns in the city. I was just told that like 6 months ago, and now they're going to put lanterns there. The other thing is there's also two existing trees in front of that dwelling across the street.
Yes, I'm sorry. They're going to remove the building next to the AME church and put a parking lot in there. And there's two trees. You can see where the X marks are I put in there. those trees are going to come out because of the driveway and the crosswalk in that location.
I'm a little confused with this, Shane. So looking at this, now, this tree here, which still looks like it's going to remain,
Yes.
is which tree on here?
That one.
That one, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. All right, I'm just trying to get my bearings. That's all.
Shane,
So-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are these street trees? All this is street?
They are street trees, except for the one in front of the library. That's
Oh, my.
that's inward from the sidewalk.
There's only 4 street trees on that
I
street,
think so.
Yeah.
in that block.
Franklin Street?
So what is this proposal? You're going to take that tree down in front of the library?
That one's staying.
No.
That one.
They're taking the 2 trees down on the left. If you look at your diagram, the 2 trees on the left.
Here,
Oh, on the
this
street tree?
diagram. These 2 are coming down.
Right, right here.
That one is the one we're looking at right there. That's going to stay. That's going to remain.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they're going to cut out a little area for seating next to the large tree in front of the school.
That one.
And I just don't want them, I mean, I called, I sent our city manager a text message when I saw them putting in the sidewalk for that new school, making sure that they were going to cut those roots, you know. To me, my opinion is, as a city council person, and not as a shade tree liaison, is I would like to see this tree stay. But, you know, I'm just one of 5. And I would like there not to be a cutout in front of that tree, because I don't want any issues with that tree, because that tree is so significant to the Franklin Street School Library project, because that tree was put in there around the same time that school was built. So, to me, you know, as I can see that everybody around here loves the trees, and as I think it's expressed to the public, if anything would happen to that tree because we, you know, decided to cut the roots in any way, I would just be devastated with myself.
Hey, Shane, can they put that little cutout in front of the library on the other side of the front door?
I was going to ask that, but I think that's where the sign is going to go. But we could make that suggestion, move it over.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, does the commission suggest that we make a recommendation to move that seating to the other side where it's open space?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And does the Shade Tree Commission want to, do you also support that these 2 trees on the left should stay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, I have a couple questions, if you don't mind. So who designed this? This came up by who?
This is
This, an architectural firm?
EDA,
And do they give
Engineering
it?
Design Associates.
Because like if we're talking almost like a blank slate to a point with this, if you're going to recreate the entire block. Why wouldn't this be, I'm just saying, like this would be a perfect opportunity to put a wider tree lawn than what we have in other parts of the city. I mean, maybe I don't know what the city right-of-way extends to in each of those private properties, but it seems they're eliminating the tree lawn altogether, which I don't understand that idea. And one of those trees is a Bradford pear, the smaller of the 2 trees. I don't have a great affinity, as you probably can tell, for Bradford pear. That tree has been there longer than the sycamore next to it, and that's about as significant of a tree as that's ever going to become. The sycamore is planted there, I think that's probably in about 13 years, 12 to 13. Their parking lot, they're Colratera, they're Golden Rain trees, which, you know, they were doing well. So they're just that's going to be demolished, that structure?
Yes.
That was where Center for Community Arts had their office for a time.
Yes, they're moving their office to the school, the library.
Right. So so when the city purchased that church, they purchased that building too?
Yes,
That was all part of the
parsonage
project?
church.
Yeah.
That's the CCA, Shane?
Yes.
That's too bad they can't, I guess that's not a historic structure.
George, what I think you're suggesting is why aren't there new plantings suggested?
Right.
Right.
It's a complete hardscape.
Why is- And I guess the best answer, that would be Shane. But any reason that you know of why there's not new plantings suggested?
I'm assuming the lantern, the lines for the lanterns, the gas lights.
All right.
Well, you know, we've got gas lights on other streets throughout the city where there's trees.
Right.
In the same block. I just feel like, you know, that we're kind of You know, that's an awful lot of hardscape there for a whole block,
Missing an
to
opportunity.
have no trees whatsoever.
Right.
You know, there's,
I agree with you, Shane, though. I think they should try to save that tree in front of the school.
You know, my attitude is always that there's a will, there's a way. We could figure this out, you know?
Okay, cannot we make a motion today, and then at the February 20th meeting, which is a week from today,
You can say.
we can bring that up in front of council?
If that's how you want to do it, I think that's great. But I think I have somewhat of a consensus here that we want to save the trees.
Yes.
And we don't want to hurt any trees, you know, whether it's cutting out a seating area or not. Okay, so that sounds good. The meeting's going to be at 5 o'clock, I assume. Just make sure you check the website, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail for it.
is this design on the website too?
It is
Or
not.
It's not, okay.
I mean, Shane would, should the commission make a formal recommendation, or you just think we just go?
To do what?
You can do both. You can go one way or the other.
Or Shane's position, Jay?
What?
To support Shane,
Position.
Okay, about the tree in front of the Franklin Street.
or all that save as many trees.
Okay. Yeah.
Plan's not final. Okay.
It's a draft, yeah. Well, we're getting ahead of it. And then
Proactive.
the other thing is, we're also agreeing that there's a missed opportunity to put more trees in.
Yeah.
George.
So it's really three things that we're asking for.
Yeah.
So it's up to you, if you want to make a formal motion for those three things. If not,
Entertain a motion
Yes.
to support Shane's position on the tree in front of the Franklin Street School.
I just did.
So what are the
Do I have a
three
sec?
What
You're
is,
the second.
to try to preserve the trees, to move the seating onto the other side so it doesn't hurt the roots of this tree, and to look for opportunities to put in more trees.
this is all under the same motion?
Yes.
All under the same motion, okay. that's
So
what-
what's the motion? Jesus.
To try to preserve the trees,
What?
to preserve all the trees.
Yes.
1. 2, do not put the seating area in front of the tree in front of the Franklin Street School because it might destroy the roots.
Disturbed root area.
3, look for opportunities for more street trees.
On the other side.
Right.
I'll make a motion to support Shane's suggestion.
Do I have a second? A second on it? You made the,
I guess
George
we're all
made
in
the
favor
motion.
since everybody's making the motion.
Carol,
We needed clarity,
Carol seconded the motion.
because we didn't have.
I have a motion on the
Yeah.
floor. Any more discussion? I'll entertain the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Okay.
Any abstentions? All right, great. That's all I have.
Good.
Thank you, everybody.
You're
we
gonna
do a
get,
motion to
you're gonna get from this gentleman
Thanks.
here.
I already have it.
We can get them to us so we can go take a look at it.
You'll have, yes.
And also,
You already know ahead of time?
Connie, if you would, please, see Nancy, get copies of the 5-year plan and provide them to the grant writer.
Okay, I think I have it.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I can make that motion.
Second. Do I have a second? Second by George. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming, and thank everybody, the whole shooting match for showing up
Whole
today.
kit and
Appreciate it.
caboodle.
Don't forget the 20th, 5 PM if you could make it.
Okay, sounds good.